Welcome back to the Teleshopping channel. Let me introduce you to the dimensional mineshaft. It cooks, it cleans, and it will mine a ton of ores for you. And you might be saying, wow, Jim, this looks amazing. How much does that cost? Well, you can get all of this for the low price of your soul. So buy today. Side effects may include death, eternal void, corruption, death again, and even more death.
Welcome back to SIEVELESS.
Right, serious bone to pick with you lot at the start of this episode. Yeah, you hear me. I want to know who reported me to OSHA for this elevator. Absolutely terrible, guys. This is a single player world. I'm well aware of what I'm building. And you lot go and report OSHA for the violations I've created in my elevator. Well, thanks for all that, because I've now had to fix it. I've now fixed it. We pulled the paneling back over a little bit. And I bought safety rails. I put safety rails on the outside here because you lot wouldn't stop complaining about it. Apparently something about the corners. Apparently you can fall down the corners. We're playing on a floating island and you lot are concerned about the corners of my elevator. Well, I've fixed it now. I've sorted it all out and it looks a lot nicer, so you'll be happy about that. And you'll be happy to know that I've also moved all of the redstone contacts over to this side so we can just use a button over here to press it. Apparently, building a bridge and precariously walking over to press a button on the other side of an elevator shaft is an OSHA violation. I don't know who makes these rules. I'm done. But thank you for letting me know. That's now fixed. A couple of people also recommended that I hide the elevator contacts and they gave me a method using this camo block. It's really easy to craft. You just require red, green, blue dye and then black and white, so we can craft a few of them up. And if I combine this with a block, say our small basalt bricks, I get this camo block. And if I right click the contact, shift right click the contact, it will now hide that block, but I can still interact with it as if it's an elevator contact, but it no longer looks like one. Apparently this works with connected textures as well, but that's really quite cool. If you hold another camo block and shift right click, you can also see what block is a camo block and shift right click to pull it off. So that's actually really handy. We can hide the contacts that way and it still works as normal. And you'll be happy to know you can't fall down the sides like you could before. See? Look. Sorry, rant over. I've got to stop ranting. But we can camo up every single one of the elevator contacts and I've placed the buttons in much easier to reach locations. It's OSHA compliant and no one can complain about it anymore. Also, someone mentioned that if I put doors on the outside of the elevator and let's say we go up a floor, it will close those doors and open them like this. Which I thought was really cool. It's like a double-layered system, a little airlock system. So I think I can forgive you for the OSHA complaints. It's made it look a lot nicer, a lot safer, and hopefully no one breaks their legs on it, because I am no longer liable for the damages. You forgot to like the video, didn't you? Go and fix that now. Go and do it, go on. And make sure that you're subscribed as well whilst you're down there. Don't make me ask twice this time. Another interesting tip that I got from you guys is that I don't need this controller because my ad hoc P2P network uses less than 8 channels, so that will work fine. And yes, I know I did P2P and I didn't need to do P2P. I just wanted to experiment. You know when you learn something, you just want to try something? That was why. Hopefully that makes sense. But yes, I know it was dumb. I could have just used dense cable. And see, look, the ad hoc network still works. Fantastic. So thank you again. You guys are a lot smarter than me. I get it. In all seriousness though, thank you very much for the comments. They're actually really helpful. But allow me to be a little bit miffed just because I didn't think of them myself. Anyway, today's episode. I don't know whether you've noticed the series title. We're playing SIEVELESS, but we've not actually done anything SIEVELESS or resource generation at all for like 4 episodes. So this episode is going to be the day that we do it. No Lens of the Miner, no geos. We're going to do something funky and probably something that you haven't expected. But first, I need to quickly show off something that happened off camera. So if you've been keeping up with my posts on YouTube, you might have found out that I had a hard drive crash last episode, which meant that I missed out on one of the clips for last episode. And that is a Drygmy farm. Now, I'm going to show you and explain how this works and what is actually happening here, because right now this just looks mental. And I'm going to do that by just removing my source farm setup for now. So a couple of episodes back, I showed you that you could contain mobs, and we did it with our villagers upstairs, if you remember. And I've been trying to contain loads and loads of different mobs. Did that egg just come from that chicken in the jar? Apparently so. Also, is that rabbit upside down? I'm getting so distracted here. But I ended up basically trapping every single mob I could find into a jar, whether that's the hostile mobs over here, some of the nether mobs. I even went to the nether and grabbed some, like blazes and wither skeletons, and a load of the peaceful mobs. And I'll show you how I got those as well, because there's some really interesting ones in here, like the foxes, the wandering trader, all of that stuff, and our upside down rabbit. And to get Drygmies, I got a bunch of this delightful dirt. You get delightful dirt by feeding a nutritious chicken feed, crafted like so, and then you use it onto a chicken. They explode and give you a golden egg. And you'll see here, it creates a 5x5 area of delightful dirt. It's used on grass, dirt, mycelium, etc. Now, normally you can't pick this up, but if you've got Silk Touch, you can pick up the delightful dirt. And that's what I did here. If I plonk some of this delightful dirt down like so, you'll see some passive mobs start spawning, and one of them is, as if by magic, the Drygmy over here. And I'm going to use my touch break extract spell on this. so that I can pick that all back up. This Drygmy in particular, the way that you get its token is by throwing a Wilden horn at it, and it will pick it up and then turn into, or then it will just sort of do a little dance and then die. I don't know. I don't know what it does, but it just drops you this token. This is so morbid. You'll also notice we got the Whirly Sprig there, and we also got Starbunkles. Starbunkles are really cool and cute. In fact, we can actually tame some of those by getting golden nuggets and throwing them down. That's their food source. They'll take one, he'll do a little dance, and he'll also die. Even the achievement makes a joke about this. Make a trade with a magical creature. I don't know what we're doing. And once you've got your Drygmy token, you can whack it in an enchanting apparatus to make the Drygmy charm. This is the recipe here, and these are just any kind of fish and any kind of seed. And the way that I got fish was on our floating island here. I broke a little bit on the side, given this massive water pool, and it tends to spawn fish. Right now it seems to only spawn those siren things. Siren, whatever they're called. But yes, this spawned in a few tropical fish and a couple of squid that I picked up with the Just Dire Things creature catcher. That uses blaze gold and an ender pearl, and this is one of my favourite ways to move mobs around. You can literally just throw it like a pokeball at your creature, and then you can just bring it right over to that ritual brazier that I've got of containment, have a jar down, and then just plonk down this fella and he'll get contained in the jar. Now, something really cool that I figured out is that the market sells a lot of spawn eggs for random peaceful mobs. So let's grab a dolphin as an example, and you don't actually need to use the containment ritual for this. You can just right click the spawn egg into a containment jar and that will work as well. So I did that for every single one of the spawn eggs over here. And once you've crafted up those Drygmy charms that I made earlier using the Drygmy token in the middle, you can place down a mossy cobblestone and right click with one of the Drygmy charms, and that will turn this into a Drygmy henge. What are you looking at? That will then spawn the Drygmy back into the world, and if you put a barrel underneath it, he will start fetching the aura from these mobs and basically popping it into this barrel, providing us a bunch of mob drops. And look how much. Now, I've been AFK for a massive amount of time because I was trying to sort out that hard drive. But look how much stuff we generated, and that was with 14 of these Drygmy charms. You can literally just right-click as many as you want onto there, and they'll all start going along and absorbing all of the drops from any of these jars. Check that out. Look how many things are going in. That is crazy. And this will just passively generate resources. Now, something to note is that this uses source to work. And so I had a mini cactus farm over here that was generating that source with the agronomic source link to just keep this topped up. I do really want a proper way of generating source rather than that cactus farm because it's loud and laggy. But for now, that was doing the trick perfectly. I believe the Drygmies get a bonus for every unique mob you have in here. And you can even put mobs that don't have drops. For example, our villagers up there, or wolves and cats. But there's still quite a few amount of mobs that I haven't got yet that I'd like to get. One of them being a witch, and some of the raid mobs would be great, or a phantom, that'd be sick. But for now, I'm just going to quickly generate a couple of mobs that maybe I haven't seen before, like the Starbuncle, and we'll catch that guy, like so. And then we'll also grab a Drygmy. I think you might be able to even contain one of the Drygmies. Uh-oh, I let this go a bit too long. Oh no, we've got a load of mobs. Perfect, we've got both of those mobs now contained, and we can pop them on our wall as well. I also got all of the Wilden mobs over here, and you can do that by getting the Summon Wilden tablet. There's two recipes for it. You can either use the Emerald one, or if you've already got some Wilden drops, you can use those as well. And if you've already used a Summon Wilden tablet, chances are you'll already be able to make this again. But I've got all of those mobs that spawn there, and they're generating horns, spikes, all of these things. Now, to get even more of those mobs, I want to do something that was in a tips and tricks video of mine a while back, and that is the Polymorphic wand. We're going to need some blaze gold ingots, some polymorphic catalyst, and a fluid canister. None of these recipes are hard. We're just going to have to use some of that Just Die Things blaze bloom goo and some of our gold, which is getting a little bit low. I'm glad we're going to be working on resource production next. I'm going to make a little platform out here to try and get some mobs to spawn because we've got that mega torch over there that's going to prevent them spawning. And that will be just as simple as making a little 2x2 area, grabbing my wand and just doing this on the corners, and that'll expand the platform really quickly. That should probably be enough just to get a couple of spawns in. And that's the Polymorphic wand created. We're going to need a bit more of this Polymorphic catalyst, which is just wart and blaze gold. And if I pop that down into our lake over here, that will turn the fluid into polymorphic fluid. And I can just right click with the wand and that will fill up our polymorphic wand so we can use it soon. Now I want to try something. I want to grab one of these mobs over here in my creature catcher. And there we go. And store it into my containment jar over here. Right, perfect. Now, I want to know if I polymorphic wand into the containment jar, does that change the guy? Let's have a look. Ooh, no. Okay, right. So they have to be out in the open for me to change what mob they are. But that is interesting to know. For now, I can just dispel this guy using my spell here, which is just projectile dispel, and he will fall out of the jar. Perfect. Right, let's give this a go. I want to try and contain a mob that we haven't found like this. This guy, oh my gosh, we want this guy. We want this guy badly. Whoa, okay, right. Situation averted. Well, that's crazy. We've just got 2 mobs there. We've got the Vex and the Evoker. The Evoker will give us Totems of Undying, and I guess I'm going to have to go and grab a mob that I have. Oh, is that a witch? Oh, yes, I really wanted a witch. And I picked up a creeper instead. Oh, that's not good. Perfect, that's the witch done. And let's see what I can get this skeleton to turn into. Oh, perfect. That's a mob we don't have. In fact, that's a really rare mob because I don't think that spawns. Great, that's the Piglin Brute. Blaze, we've got Slime. That's interesting. We haven't got that one. Pillager. Oh, okay, cool. A Ghast. What the hell? I can't even reach the thing. Wait, hold on. That was crazy. Right, well, we got a Ghast as well. So you can see that we've now built up a massive pool of random mobs now, which not only gives us a lot of rare loot, but also gives us more unique roles on our Drygmies themselves, so we should end up with faster production. Also, it's quite satisfying putting these mobs in different places where they match. So for example, I put all the raid mobs down here, all the nether mobs, some of the end mobs as well. This is really cool. And you'll see we're now generating Totems of Undying. I don't know whether we actually have a use for these, especially not a use for them en masse, but I still think that's pretty cool. Ooh, the Master Miner requires one. That's interesting. I don't think we'll get to that, but I think that's a little bit of a hint for this episode. It is crazy how much we're generating. I think I'm actually going to have to make an upgrade for this chest because we've already got, what, 6 stacks of leather? But I would totally recommend you get a Drygmy farm set up in your world. These are one of the best passive resource generators. Obviously not comparable to an actual cursed earth mob farm, but in terms of the rarer mobs, for example, the pillagers, the evokers, the ghasts, this is actually really useful. Right, so what are we going to be getting into next? Well, the answer to that question would be occultism. We've already got some demon dream seeds and some demon dream fruit. We just need to make ourselves a book and then craft the Dictionary of Spirits. Now, Occultism has had a really nice graphical rework, and I'm loving the designs. Now, I've already completed Occultism, so if you've already done that and you just want to see all of the entries, just press Shift and then click all of that, and it will mark everything as complete. But this is the progression that you'll be doing to get into Occultism, and it all starts off with this Demon Dream Seeds and Demon Dream Fruit. We're gonna need to make a little bit of space here, so I'm gonna grab some of this exchanging gadget and just right-click here, and this will now be a little new farming area. Now, I've already got some Demon Dream Fruit over here, but I think we need to expand this because we're gonna be using a lot of it. And we're playing Skyblock, so you know that we can grow our stuff easier if we just twerk. And that should get us quite a fair bit of this. And we need to find somewhere to place some fire. Now, it won't spread, but I do want to find a nice place for it. Maybe up here. This feels a little bit mystical around this area. If I throw down one of my Demon's Dream Fruit and then right-click it with a flint and steel, I'll make Spirit Fire. The cool thing about Spirit Fire is that you can literally just walk in it. You don't take any damage. And they've changed this now from the purple texture to be white, and I actually prefer this. Now, if I grab myself an oak sapling, or maybe 16 of them, and throw them into the fire, I get back these enchanted oak saplings. And if I grow one, let's say over here, it'll look really normal. But if I eat my Demon's Dream Fruit, I might have to eat quite a few of these. It will turn into the Otherworld Log, and I can mine that up, and I will get Otherworld Log and Otherworld Planks if I craft that up. So your goal here is to grow quite a lot of them, then eat the Demon's Dream Fruit, and then, whilst you're under the influence of it, harvest all of those saplings and get as much Otherworld Log as you need. We're then going to need some other stone, and you can get this by throwing andesite into the Spirit Fire. And again, they've changed this texture to look like this calcite marble texture. I love this. But if you prefer the older textures, you can craft other rock. And that's just throwing diorite into the Spirit Fire. And that gives you the dark mode version of these blocks. But I prefer building out of this white material. It looks really nice. And in fact, I'm actually going to place some around here to make it look a little bit more mystical. Now, we do need quite a bit of this. I've gone overkill and crafted loads. I've crafted multiple stacks. You will not need this, but I thought it's quite a nice building material, so I want this just for later. Following on from that quest in this book, we're going to need candles, and the way we get them is by crafting a butcher's knife and harvesting some of the larger animals like pigs, cows and sheep. The butcher knife is really easy to make, so we'll craft one of those. And earlier on we got some of that delightful dirt, so I'm just going to plonk some of this down and harvest all of these mobs here using the butcher's knife. So I've got 19 tallow, and I think I've spawned in so many Ars mobs I have actually ran out of space for them. If I throw all of my golden nuggets down here, are all of the starbunkers going to come over and pick it up? Oh, well that works. Right, I've cleared out that area and got a ton of Drygmy tokens and Starbuncle tokens. That's quite useful for later. But most importantly was this tallow, because we're now going to use that to craft the large candles. And we'll craft up a ton of those. We're going to need quite a bit. And now that we've got all of that sorted, we can now start with getting ourselves white chalk. So the way that we get that is we craft the impure white chalk, which is just throwing our otherworld logs into that spirit fire again, and we'll need burnt other stone, which just means we have to cook up other stone twice. Impure white chalk, that's now crafted. And we're also going to need some sacrificial bowls using the other stone that we crafted earlier, and then we need to turn one of them into the golden sacrificial bowl. That requires 8 gold ingots surrounding it. Now eventually you'll need quite a lot of these sacrificial bowls, so I've crafted up 32, but for now I've only got enough gold to do 1 sacrificial bowl. And to make our impure white chalk pure, we just throw it back into a spirit fire and we get the white chalk. And so the first ritual we will be crafting is the Aviar's Circle. That's going to look like this, and I'll show you how to make that in a minute. But more specifically, we're going to want the Foliot Crusher. That requires us getting an ingot of all of these different types, which luckily we've got, and a binding book foliot. The way that you get that is just by combining the Book of Binding Foliot in with your Dictionary of Spirits, and the way that you get that is by crafting blue dye with a Book of Binding empty, or using this recipe here. I'm going to craft up a bunch of these Book of Bindings, which you'll see is just the exact same as this recipe, but you just craft this earlier. And that uses the Awakened Feather, Purified Ink, and a Taboo Book. All of these materials here are just feathers, ink, and books that have all been put in Spirit Fire. And now that we've got our mob farm, ink sacks and feathers are easy, same with leather. Oh, I lied, it's not the ink sacks, you actually have to have the black dye itself and throw that in, and then you'll get the purified ink. And lastly, throw the books in, and we've got all of them. If I combine all of those up in a crafting recipe, I will now get the Book of Binding empty. And so now we've crafted up the Book of Binding Foliot, craft that with the dictionary, we now have a bound one. So I'm going to go into my compact machines, because these rituals get pretty massive, and I've built out this really awful looking area here that's going to house all of our rituals when we get later down the line. Now obviously we're not going to do that all in this episode, but for now we'll click on the Aviar's Circle and then press this little multi-block preview, and you can see we can move this wherever, and I don't actually know where the exact middle is. I'll figure that out later, but for now that's where I'm going to place this. I can right click to place it down in the world, and that shows me an outline of what I need to do. And in this case, all I need to do is just right click with the chalk wherever the chalk is on the floor, and there's a progress bar at the top to see if I'm matching it. And that is looking good to me. Place in your golden sacrificial bowl, place in a couple of our candles that you made earlier. You don't even need to light them, and there we go, complete. And now, depending on the recipe that we're using, so for this Foliot Crusher, we need to use 4 items. That requires 4 items in 4 sacrificial bowls, and I can place those either inside the ritual, anywhere in the spaces in between, or I can place it on the outside like so. I believe there's a range limit, but with these smaller rituals you're not going to pass it. And so if I now place every single one of those ingots that were required for the Foliot Crusher into the sacrificial bowl, and then right click our Book of Binding in the middle, that will now start the ritual for Summon Foliot Crusher. You'll see it will slowly absorb the materials that we put in the bowls. There we go, that's the first one gone, and now we've got to wait for all of these to go. This does take a long while, so just be warned. Great, that's all of the materials, and now he should spawn in. Perfect, we've now got our Foliot little demon guy. Check him out, he looks pretty cool. I can right click him with the creature catcher and pop him in here. And I'm actually going to put him in a containment jar for now. If I place him in the world and then right click him, he should go straight into the containment jar like so. And I can now take him with me to do any of our crushing activities. In this case, I want to grab some endstone and let him crush away at that. Now, I can just throw that on top of him. If he wasn't in a containment jar, he'd actually just take the item and drop the item on the floor. But the cool thing about having him in a containment jar is actually, I'm going to pause you doing that, and I'll pop a barrel underneath you. If I now pop the containment jar there, he'll finish off his crushing and then deposit that into the barrel down here. Brilliant. So he is now crushing all of our endstone up. And we now need to make the next set of chalks. The next one will be the yellow chalk, followed by the purple chalk. The yellow chalk's really easy. You just need to make an impure white one, glowstone dust, and 2 gold dust. And that should be easy. We just need to crush up 2 of our gold ingots, craft ourselves the impure white chalk, and then craft ourselves the yellow chalk. For the purple chalk, we're going to need the crushed endstone that we got, obsidian dust, and then some impure white chalk. We made obsidian dust last episode. We just need to use our crusher. Now, I could use the Foliot Crusher, but this guy is just a little bit faster. Perfect. So we've now got both of those chalks. I need to go and whack them in a spirit fire. And I put a small one in my compact machine just because it saves me some time walking over to the area. And there we go. We've now got 3 of the chalks over here. So that actually allows us to do quite a few rituals now. We get access to this pathway down here and we get access to this pathway. But you'll see anything in this line over here requires us getting the lime chalk. The lime chalk is 2 bottles of enchanting and an emerald dust. Now, we could use a couple of other methods to get the bottle of enchanting, but I think the easiest easiest one that we could do, I think the best one that we can do is an XP singularity tank. That requires us making a regular singularity tank and then 2 Eyes of Ender, and that gives us the XP drain singularity tank. If I plonk that down over here and grab maybe 10 odd levels from here and stand on top of my XP drain, it turns it into liquid XP. Very similar to the experience hatch that we made for Create. But this one's really neat because if I right click it with a glass bottle, I will get bottles of experience. There we go, 15, that is a lot. Bearing in mind I only needed 2. And I will crush up this emerald. Looking at these rituals, they're basically upgradable. So if I crafted the Avia's Circle, I can upgrade it to this Affixes Calling. You'll see it uses the same ritual that we had before, but now requires the lime chalk around it. So there are 4 different types of rituals. You've got the circle rituals, you've got this kind of diamond shaped ritual, the square rituals, and then this one over here, which I don't even know what shape that is. So that is why I made 4 platforms over here. One for the circle, one for diamond, square, and then this one. So the bottom floor is going to be the circle, the second floor is going to be the diamond, so we're going to do one on the 3rd floor, which will be our square rituals. And that is what is required, you'll see up here the square ritual, required for the research fragment dust to make the lime chalk. Great, so let's make this Ezevius's Spectral Compulsion over here. Perfect, that's now created, and we can add our sacrificial bowls on this side over here. And so we place our emerald dust, our 2 bottles of enchanting, and our book of binding foliot in the middle, crafting the research dust. Great, there we go, we've now got the research fragment dust. So that now means we need to combine it with another emerald dust and slime ball to make the lime chalk. That's the lime chalk crafted, throw it into the spirit fire, and now we've got the lime chalk. We're also going to need the impure light grey chalk. That's going to require silver, some iron dust, and then crushed calcite. How can I get calcite? Oh, that's okay. We can use the manipulation essence and tough to get calcite. That's really good. That will be another recipe for Mr. Foliot over here. Boom. It would be kind of cool to try and complete all of the chalks up to this stage. So I'm going to try and go for the orange chalk here. That requires glowberries, cursed honey, blaze powder. The glowberries are going to be an interesting one, but the cursed honey comes from a possessed bee. We're going to have to make a ritual to possess a bee. Okay, I think it's time that we got into bees. We're only going to scratch the surface with bees, so I'm going to keep this really short and simple. So I grabbed some birch saplings and some poppies and made a row of each of them. I then grew up all of the birch saplings, and after the 3rd time, I finally got a beehive. Oh, I heard a bee, I heard a bee. Hey, we got a bee. It was a bit of a nightmare getting all of them back into the hive, but once that was done, I then moved that over to the base and set up a temporary beehive situation. And that will open them up to a 1-block area there with a flower inside, and they should just instantly pollinate that, I'm hoping. I'm going to pop a chest down with a pair of flint shears, and we'll try and get ourselves some honeycomb soon. There we go, 5 out of 5 honey. That means we can now just right click it and we'll get ourselves some honeycomb. Oh, and all of them are angry. Whoops. And we can craft ourselves the first beehive. To make it into an advanced beehive, we just need one of our campfires, flint shears, 2 more honeycomb, and that creates the advanced oak beehive. And I also want to make the expansion box for the same thing. What does that cost? Oh, okay, we can do that as well. Let's grab ourselves the oak expansion box here. And I'll also get ourselves some bee cages so we can move our bees easier now. So then came a tricky challenge. Breaking the beehive, which would release all the bees and make them angry. So I had to kite them around a little bit until they calmed down, pop them in bee cages, and then set up the brand new hive with the expansion box. If I now grab myself a dispenser and face it into that flower over here, I can place my bee cages in like so and grab a button, and that'll allow me to pop them back into this without breaking the glass. And in fact, I believe the market guy sells bees as well. Let me have a look. I can grab 2 bees from this guy as well then. And I'm hoping I can also dispense them as well. Oh, I can. Perfect. I also really want some honey bottles, so I'm going to fill up this hive here with some bottles, and that should produce us honeycomb and also honey bottles. One of the goals for the bees would definitely be to get the simulator upgrade. That's going to require us get quite a few bits of combs though, and honey treats. It's not that difficult. We can just use any kind of honeycomb block here, but we need to make the anti-teleportation and then the upgrade base. So for that, we need a honey treat, and that's just a honeycomb mixed with a honey bottle. We can do that. That then also gives us access to this quest over here, which gives us even more honey treats. And we're getting a load of experience and honeycombs from this, so I think that should speed us up a bit. So we can craft the first part of this, which is the upgrade base. And then we're going to need a load of these combs. We've only got 2 for now. We're going to need 8 comb blocks. So I'm going to do some AFK and bring you back when we've got enough for the simulator upgrade. Surprisingly, that took no time at all. We've actually managed to get ourselves more than we needed. So we'll craft up the anti-teleportation one. That's easy. And then the simulator upgrade, perfect. And even better, every single one of my bees is already in there. So if I add that simulator upgrade, basically bees will no longer physically enter the hive. The hive gets simulated, meaning that I can remove everything around the hive and they won't come out. However, it does require me putting a feeding slab instead of this flower. The feeding slab is just a chest with a smooth stone slab, and if I popped that like so on there and popped our poppy inside, these will now produce the resources. Now, the main reason that I wanted the simulator upgrade is because I can now time accelerate this using my time in a bottle without them escaping, which means that they will be producing combs 24/7 whilst they're time accelerated, rather than them popping out, waiting for them to pollinate and then going back in. However, it's becoming dark, so we're going to have to wait a little bit. So I slept for the night and woke up to a bit of a surprise. Oh, is that enough? Is that enough? Is that enough? Let's see. Yes, perfect. Right, all of these blocks here is what we're going to be needing to make ourselves the possessed bee. And now that we're able to generate honeycomb a lot quicker, I've used the time in a bottle. I used an absolute ton of time here, but you'll see how much we're able to generate using it. This is actually fantastic. This should speed up a lot of stuff. We can actually use regular vanilla candles rather than the tallow candles, and they are much easier to craft, so we're definitely going to use those instead. This next ritual also requires skeleton skulls. Now, if you remember, we had that method where we blew up creepers that were charged, and I luckily had 5 skeleton skulls here that I can use. We're going to need a lot more than that, but that should be a good start. So using our new green and yellow chalk, I made the new ritual to summon the possessed bee. Right, okay, that's that ritual completed, and I'll add the sacrificial bowls over here, and hopefully if I add all of those ingredients in like so, and then add our book of binding. Oh, we need to perform a sacrifice of a chicken. Right, okay. And I've got the perfect idea. Let's use this fella that was on the sawmill, because clearly he just loves the pain of the sawmill. So maybe he'll enjoy being sacrificed to make a possessed bee, I hope. Did that work? Yeah, it did. Right, okay, so I can see all the particles there, and it's absorbing all of this stuff. Now, one of the interesting things is we can actually containment jar some of these occultism creatures and pop them in our Drygmy farm. I don't really want to do this with this cursed honey one, because it's actually quite useless. You only really use this once. But I believe you can make a possessed skeleton, which gives you skeleton heads, and that would definitely be useful. Right, there we go. The cursed bee, and if we just kill that, we should get cursed honey. 3 of it, perfect. The orange chalk also needs glowberries, and glowberries can be made from sweet berries. Okay, I've figured out how we're going to get glowberries. If I use the Conjure Island Flourishing, I'll get moss, glowberries, and bamboo, and that is what I want. I want the glowberries from that. So I crafted that Conjure Island tablet and made another space for it next to our current floating islands. I grabbed one of our source jars and set this all up to work. Labash. That is so sick. That is never going to get old. But now we've finally got ourselves some of these glowberries. We've also got access to bamboo, which is really nice. I don't know what we're going to use it for, but that is cool too. And we can now craft ourselves that orange chalk. We're definitely going to need a lot more skulls, and so I'm going to craft the possessed skeleton as well. That's going to require another chicken sacrifice, and you'll see here it has a chance to drop the skeleton skull. Right, so if I place the bones in that same altar, despite this being a higher level one, you'll see if I hover over it, it says current pentacle. It will also allow the lower tier ones, and if I place my book of binding, sacrifice a chicken, I can now get this possessed skeleton. Great, and I'll capture you, and I will pop you in a containment jar. And I'm hoping that we should now get some skeleton skulls coming in soon. Right, so let's get started on our miners. The one that we can get up to right now is the Ore Miner Genie, because that requires Strigger's Higher Binding, which I believe we unlocked at this stage here with the lime chalk. If we got to the next stage, we could get the next level up, but that requires torch flowers, and we can do that, but I think I've overdone it with the amount of microcrafting for this episode, so I think it's important that we just set up the basics for now. So we'll sort out our ore miners, and the way that this works is that you have a dimensional mineshaft and you place your Ore Miner Genie inside it. The dimensional mineshaft requires other stone, block of Easnium, and some spirit attuned crystals, which is just 4 diamonds thrown into a spirit fire to get those gems, and then you combine that up to make the spirit attuned crystal. But this block of Easnium is going to be very difficult. It requires 9 Easnium ingots. Easnium is a bit of a strange one to come by. The way that you get it is actually by getting the Easnium ore by throwing an ancient debris into the atomic reconstructor to get Easnium ore. So I've been cranking away trying to get some ancient debris so that I can show this off on camera. If I throw this into the reconstructor and then shoot it, I get the Easnium. If I plop that down, and whoa, look at the colours on that. That looks really nice. If I then break it using our Fortune 5 diamond hammer, I get 2. Let's see if we can get some more. Let's try another one. 1. Brilliant. Well, in true SIEVELESS fashion, here's some I cooked up earlier. I got 5 from one of them earlier. And I think we might be able to crush this up further into the ingots. Maybe not. What if I give this to my Foliot crusher? Can he do it? And also a mini tip, you can actually time in a bottle your crusher if you've got him in a jar. So check that out. Let's see if he doubles it. Oh, he does. Okay, right. So we'll definitely have to double our ores using our Occultism crusher. So let's upgrade our basic spectral compulsion to higher binding by just placing the ritual down here and filling in all this stuff over here. Great. So that is now the ritual complete. And I'm going to plop the bowls over on the side over here. So let's go up to Strigger's Higher Binding. What we're going to do is just place in all of our ingredients. But we're going to do this manually. Now, next episode, I plan to make this automatic. That would be really cool if we could do that. But if I just place that all in there, it will now start crafting the dimensional mineshaft. Now, this is going to take a long while. I could use the time in a bottle to speed this up. But I'm just going to skip through to when this is finished, so that makes it easier for you guys. Oh, finally. That took absolutely ages. And in the meantime, a load of slimes have spawned in the compact machine. I guess this is a slime chunk? This is really strange. I then ran completely dry on silver. Looking at the recipe for silver, it was possible to get this from the lens of the miner, but I seemed to get really unlucky when I tried for about 10 minutes just to get it. However, I spotted myself a recipe that as a byproduct of crushing lead, you could get raw silver, and all I needed was 10 to get ourselves the silver geel. There we go, 10 silver dust. Dunk that into the Sand 1X. Oh, we're making the budding silver geel. I can't wait. That's going to speed up things so much. And for now, I'm going to remove these ancient debris geodes and just get ourselves some more silver so we can make ourselves even more of those silver geodes. Okay, so let's start off with 4 of our miners. We're going to need 4 empty magic lamps combined with 4 iron, 4 gravel, and then 4 Easnium pickaxes. Pop a book in the middle, and that is now going to infuse our empty lamp into a ore miner. That's the basic miner Foliot. And then from there, we can upgrade it to the next level, which will be the ore miner genie. And the last one coming in, we've now got 4 of the miner Foliots. So next we're going to be upgrading to the genie miners. That's going to require us to do all of this again, but with the miner Foliots this time. Auto crafting would help this out a ton, but I think we're going to have to still save it for next episode. And the last genie miner coming up. That is fantastic. Okay, so the next stage that we need to do is getting ourselves a mending enchantment book, and there doesn't seem to be an easy recipe for this. So my next best guess is to use the villager spawner that we've got and try to get ourselves a mending villager. But this might take some time. We also need to get efficiency, hopefully one of the higher levels of efficiency. And so in the background, I've set up my little press here so I can hopefully try to generate more of those books and get ourselves up to that mending that we need. In hindsight, this was such a dumb idea. I stayed here for ages just trying to get this mending villager. Now in modded Minecraft, there's so many more enchantments, and so mending becomes more and more rare. But eventually, I finally hit it. Oh, we got it! We got it! Oh my god, yes, that's insane. Well, that is amazing. I am gonna jar this guy up for like... Oh, no, that's not the jar. That's the jar. Right, hopefully we can now have him jarred so we can get as much mending as we want, even though we've got the printer over there in case this is a really good backup. In fact, let's just make sure that we've got a duplicate of that so no problems happen. Perfect, that's an extra mending book. And lastly, we're going to need efficiency. Now, what does it cost for all of this? It's probably worth me doing the enchanter. What's that going to cost? 60 redstone and 15 lapis. That's quite easy, and then just 33 levels. I will do this. Oh, and I haven't actually crafted the enchanter. Luckily, we've got a load of dark steel ingots already. Probably from some of the backpacks, I'm going to guess, or the mob farm. But we did get the enchanter, so that's fantastic. Pop that there. All of that together, efficiency 5, just need a few more levels for it. And there we go, efficiency 5, that is amazing. So after duplicating all of those books at least once so we had a backup, I combined them all together to make one book that had all of the enchantments on it. Perfect, look at that. Efficiency 5, fortune 5, and mending. And I just want to see how much it's going to cost to duplicate this enchantment. It's going to cost, I actually don't know how much that is, but we're going to need quite a few of these books. We're going to need 4 in total, but we're also going to need 1 for a backup. Let's plonk all of the experience in there and generate a few more. That is fantastic. We've got a load of these books now. Let's add it to every single one of these ore miner genies. Gosh, I really don't know where to pop our ore genie setup. I don't want to do it in the compact machine. I want to actually have it in the world. I actually think the Batcave will be a really good spot for this. Maybe in this corner over here. I'll just flatten this out a little bit so we can get this started. So to briefly try and explain the design that I'm trying to make, I want to have somewhere to pop my dimensional mine shafts like so. What's going to happen is I will place one of the ore miner genies inside this dimensional mine shaft. It will start generating those ores that we said. However, it then does a little bit of damage to the miner. So at some point, this is going to end up breaking. So I'm going to pull that out right now. And this is where my funky automation comes into play. If I add a shaft here and a shaft here and connect that with a mechanical belt, I can place funnels on this side and a funnel on this side and a spout on top. In the back of this, I'm going to connect up another shaft like that and whack a water wheel here. So if I pop water on this side here, I blocked off that with a trapdoor. That should now move items from this chest over to this chest. So right now I've popped some cobble in there and it's all moving its way into this barrel over here. Something interesting with Create, and I don't know whether this is Enchantment Industries specific or whether this is vanilla Create, but I am able to pipe fluid experience from an experience holder into the spout over here. And that means that we get some experience flowing into here. This is where the fun part happens. If I have mending on an item and I place it on this belt, it will slowly move itself along and the spout will shoot experience liquid into it. And if I look at the other end, it ends up being fully repaired. This is really cool. We don't even need to make the Eternal Stellar. We can just have this running and it will generate us ores and everything in the background. The only input we need to give it is some experience once in a while. So if I then connect up inventory cable onto the sides of these barrels over here, all the way like so, I can write a program that takes all of the outputs out of here, pops them into a results chest, and then ever so often on a timer, it will pop the items into this barrel over here. They'll get sent across here, be mended, and then takes them back from here and places them inside the dimensional mineshaft, automating the entire mending setup. So let's place our factory manager down. I'm going to get to coding and seeing if I can make this example work. All of the SFM code for this project will be available in my Discord server under the SFM schematics code section. It's completely free to join, there's no subscription fee for any of that, so make yourself welcome and have a look at the code in there. Okay, so I've AFK'd for maybe about 3 hours or so, and I've tweaked the settings a little bit. I'm trying to get the timings correct. I found out that about 6,000 ticks allows this to repair in the right amount of time, so I think that's alright. I think I could have also added unbreaking, and I might add this later on when I make some more, and that probably means we get a little bit longer in between having to do the spout thing. But right now I'm pretty happy with that because this is the results chest. Check that out. Unfortunately, I wasn't actually expecting to have this much ores coming through, which it's gone a bit chaotic, so I need to go and get some stack upgrades. And I also really need to make a start on doing some ore processing because we've got too many ores here to actually handle. But we've got some really interesting ones here that I didn't really have much access to, like gilded blackstone, some more uraninite, and even some wacky ones like the dimensional shards. So I'm really happy with how this is progressing. I definitely need to pizzazz this up a little bit because it looks a bit dodgy right now. So I'm going to have a little crack at doing that off camera. Okay, so I've played around a little bit and tried to make this look nice. Look at the timing on that. All the genies are coming through as well. So I've added some metal girders here. I used the other stone as well and some of the silver geodes that we picked up earlier as well. I've used the crystal clusters to sort of match with the environment with some metal girders, etc. I also used those hazard stripes just where the genies are. It kind of looks like an SCP, like hazard warning, don't touch. It looks really creepy, but I like it. It really does fit the vibe. And this is just running away, generating a ton of resources in the meantime as well. I also used this other stone pedestal. I really wanted to use it for here, but I think it just matched better with this lantern setup that I had over here. I still somehow need to try and fill up this tank automatically. I'll maybe use an ender tank or something to keep that filled up. But for now, I think this is looking really nice. And the bat cave is coming together very slowly, but it's coming together. So next episode, I really want to focus on processing all of our ore production here, maybe upgrading the genies to the next level, getting them to the deep ore miner, or even further to the higher tier, the master miner. But that will be for next episode. So thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hype the video, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you next time. Take care.